Hello and welcome to another Infinity Train rambling review. If I sound excited, I am. I just watched episode 6, which I think is just called like the party car. Might just is that it? Yeah, the party car. And I say I've just seen it. I've just seen it for the third time. I recorded one of these yesterday, the episode 5, the Astro Q car, and immediately following recording that, I watched this one because I was just like, well, I'm free to watch the next episode now because I've already recorded it. I can't spoil myself essentially. And I was like, that was fantastic. And then I watched it again this morning before I went to work because I usually watch it twice before recording, and I made some notes. And then I just watched it a third time for fun. I love this episode. I think what's impressive about this series, or what's smart maybe is the better term for what I'm trying to describe, is that the creative team seem to understand that it's probably not a great idea to try and top season 3 in terms of stakes and drama and those really heightened emotions. Season 3 was this really intense, very powerful season with these really, really heightened emotions involved. And that's one kind of way to get drama and excitement from a show like this. Not a better or worse way, just a different way. And this season, this idea of being like, let's go a little bit back to basics, let's keep it simple, and tell just a really sweet story. And like, I don't know, I'm kind of into it. I've said this before, and I feel like I maybe end up saying this almost every episode. I do feel it's unfortunate it's the last season, because this is not generally how you would want to go out, I don't think. And from what I understand, they had bigger plans going forward. They at least thought they were getting one more season at least. So it's it's easy to see how this is unfortunate, and certainly when compared to the previous season, it's much more low key. But what a excellent story this has ended up being. I love these characters. This episode just made me inexplicably happy. It's funny, it's sweet. I cannot tell you how much joy I get from seeing Min and Ryan sort of like starting to deal with. I mean, it's hard to explain really, because I guess I don't know. It's kind of like there's no I don't know how to explain it. It's like the characters are... I'm so invested, basically. I think that is what I'm trying to get to. I was trying to think of a more complicated way to say it, I think, but actually it's as simple as that. I think I'm just super invested. I don't know how they've achieved that necessarily. Like, I do like to dissect these episodes often and try to figure out how they've made me feel the way they feel, because that's always interesting to someone who studied screenwriting. But sometimes it's wizardry. Sometimes I just don't know. I don't have the answer. And this is one of those times that I genuinely don't have the answer. I cannot tell you exactly how it is they've made me care so much about these two people with such simple, sort of like fun little stories that they've sort of, again, this pared down season. I'm in. Like, this really did win me over. It kind of proved that they'd been like, I was already enjoying the show, but this was like proof of how invested I am in these two characters. So, for those who don't remember this episode, because I am just waffling at this point, because I can't properly express... It's hard. When an episode makes you feel something and that makes you excited, it's like, oh, explain that feeling in words. That's usually where I fall down. So let's get more specific, because that'll probably help me explain myself. Maybe as we go through the different elements of the episode, it'll help illustrate my point. So this is the episode in which they get into the party car. They're going to play music for the denizens that are partying in the party car, some of which are, it turns out, actually Kez's friends, but not really. They're kind of jerks. They're pretty mean to her. We'll come back to that. And basically they're going to play a gig, and Min bails again, and then they hit on something I was not expecting them to tackle, which is uh, their heritage, their ethnicity. Like I really. When the show, when we were doing the first episode, when I recorded the first episode of this, I thought, should I give the show the thumbs up for, representation? And then I thought, no, because this is what should be happening now. If shows have, if the show exists and the cast is like all white dudes or whatever, like that's when we should comment. It should be normal for a show to have a nice diverse cast and telling stories from different, perspectives and cultures and all that stuff, all that good stuff. So I was like, I'm not even going to comment on it because that's what it should be. We shouldn't praise when it's achieved. We should point out when it isn't. I guess is what I'm saying. And that's not a criticism. I'm not saying that like a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, for me, I was just like, it doesn't even need commenting on. So I'm just gonna crack on and just talk about the show. I didn't think they would necessarily look at that as part of the story, but basically, it seems I remember we were talking about this in the first episode. I was like, I think there's more to Min's abandoning of Ryan than just my parents don't want me to pursue music. And I couldn't put my finger on what it was. And I remember I kept saying, like, there's just another element of this I'm missing. Whether maybe there's a sick grandparent at home, he really needs money, something. I was trying to suss it out. This could be it. And it's genius. For those who don't remember, if you listen to this in the future, Min is concerned that, okay, we could become the greatest musicians in the world. I've got the quote. I wrote the quote down verbatim because it's so good. We're just two Asian guys from VC in a band called Chicken Choice Judy. Can you think of anybody doing what we want to do who look like us? That's crazy. That's awesome. What a powerful message to just, like, I felt like I'd been hit by a car because I guess I just got lulled into that's not the story we're telling here. It's not really about their race at all. It's just representation in that sense of, these characters happen to have Asian heritage, so I'm on board with that too. That's also, I think that's also a good way. There's two different ways you can approach representation. You can actually tell stories from the perspective of those cultures and actually put an angle on it. But there's also a good, sometimes it's also good just to have characters of different perspectives and not really make that make that part of their story. But what's great about this is they've established them as characters in their own right first, and now the heritage is played into a decision, and that's just fascinating, So yeah, two characters of Asian descent that are, one of which is questioning whether they even would have a chance, and is that even worth pursuing? That's, man, I just didn't think that angle was going to be part of the story of the show, and I'm really impressed that they went there. I thought they handled it beautifully. Like, it gives so much more context to Min and his decision making in the earlier parts of this. I was blown away by that choice. I thought that was so clever. And again, this is a different kind of approach to drama than the previous season. The previous season was all high stakes, high emotion. This is like subtle, like, anxieties that a person has. And that's just as worth exploring. I think that's just as valid as a form of storytelling. And I think, it's not lesser. It's just different. And that's, I'm impressed. Like, I don't know, already this season has been, like, for me, a really nice light relief from the again, that high intention drama from the previous season. But to make it, like, really funny, but also then have a really, like, poignant moment like that kind of just go, oh God, in the 80s, like, yeah, these kids didn't have many people in the industry to look up to, and then I'm like, do they even have now? That's an upsetting thought, but there's a truth to that too. There's still in a lot of Asian rock stars, in the world, in Western society, that's for sure. So I don't know, I just found that really powerful. For those who don't know how the episode ends, I should quickly finish my recap because I got absolutely sideswiped by that, and as a result, I've sideswiped my own review by getting off topic as I described the episode. They end up playing a little private gig in the bathroom for themselves, just having a little bit of fun with it after they talk about it, and then Ryan all the people leave, and then Kez is like sad because her friends are kind of jerks. And she earlier in the episode described. I noticed that she described the other characters from this episode that are introduced as her friends, as her best friends. But in reality, I think in the end, true friends are Ryan and Min, because she goes and sits with them and listens to music, and it's just this really it's a really loud siren. It's just come by. It's just this really sweet moment where they're all just sat playing music, content, and she's on Min's shoulder, looking like really settled and comfortable, and like free to be herself and not be. There's no expectations on her. She doesn't need to be anything other than herself. Whereas it feels like with the other guys, because they're constantly making fun of her, she's constantly trying to be someone different. And it's just, again, this really sweet moment where we've got Ryan and Min sort of having voiced that concern, and having finally had that conversation, playing this music. It's just this really serene moment, and again, beautiful choice from the point of the writing is just to focus on the door unlocking, because I should have clarified, the door is locked until they play a good show or have a good party, and then it opens in that last moment. It's just incredible. Let's break it down in more detail though, because I guess I've kind of jumped around quite a lot. My own excitement for this episode is kind of ruined. It's ruined this discussion. It's super funny. It's a really funny episode. There's so many great jokes. I loved Make Yourself as Big as Possible was a good one right up top when we meet the when we come across the steward. It's just such a oh look, yeah, it's big. We'll do what we do with a bear. That's the answer. 2 kids from Canada. Yeah, that makes sense. I really enjoyed that. I loved the concept of that, by the way, the whole train-wide announcement. What a really smart way to pay off that cliffhanger from the previous episode. It's just one making a train-wide announcement. I wondered if this could be where one stopped taking, people's things and making them wear uniforms in general, like across the whole system. Hello, Nadia's come through the room. She's giving me the finger that's on the lips to be like, I'll be quiet. It's okay, Nadia. You don't need to be quiet. She's not responding, that's fair. So I think this could be maybe the point in which one stopped making people wear uniforms. Like, I always assumed that stopped when Amelia usurped him. I always assumed that stopped with the coup. But I think she maybe coaxed him into doing it earlier than that. And he'd already made that decision, because when he finishes his message, you can obviously faintly hear another character speaking, and it's Amelia's voice coming through the speaker, and she says, I wrote it down. That's a good thing. Now the people individually can do, and it's like trails off there. I think that was basically her convincing him this is the way to get people on board. This is the way to help people find their sort of truths on the train if they have access to their own equipment. When you think back to like Tulip, she had a backpack with her notebook in it. She had, her silly onion pencil. She came with things. Jesse had his sunglasses. Like, he had his phone, which had his videos with his brother. Like, that definitely helped him. So the idea that this was the moment that the train decided, actually, maybe these people should have their stuff back, is pretty smart and quite fun. I also wondered if maybe the reason she was trying to convince 1-1 to give people their stuff back was actually because she wanted that device she has to make the tones back, so she could take control. That crossed my mind, because with that said, she was wearing her own clothes in the first episode, so maybe she already had her stuff back. I don't know about that, but I thought that was a neat idea, and I thought if you ever did a movie, well, I think I saw I saw on Twitter the other day that there was talk of an Amelia movie at one point. That was something that they were planning to do, like to tell her backstory, and I like the idea that somehow at some point in that you'd see the other side of this exchange, where you actually get the full context of that sentence you hear briefly from Amelia here. But anyway, to the main chunk of the episode, I think I really liked. I liked, but it made me very sad, the entire Kez plot in this episode. I thought it's just she's trying so hard for these people. They just don't seem to like her very much. They're her quote unquote friends, but like they just mistreat her so deeply that it's really, you just feel for it. Like it's giving her a complex. It's really sad. Because because these are the people that actually like her apparently. But honestly, like, that, yeah, I mean, it's just constant digs, constant like, oh, you're such a screw up. Everything they say is basically some sort of veiled dig at Kez, like literally every sentence that comes out of their mouths, and that's just really cruel. Yeah, I like what it does for the Kez character, but I didn't enjoy it, if that makes sense. Again, it made me really sad, particularly at the end. The one that got me in the moment, I was just like, oh my god, like I've already been hit with the you know, can you think of anybody doing what we want to do who look like us line? Like, if that hadn't already like stuck a knife in and like pulled out my organs, like they twisted the knife quite a bit more and got some more out with the Kez line when they were, you know, when they say we can always count on you to fail, it's kind of funny, and they walk away and she's just like, I wasn't trying to be funny. And it's the delivery as well. I've got to say, like, both the actor that voices Min, whose name I don't have in front of me, sadly, and I've forgotten, but and the actress that voices Kez, again, don't have it in front of me. I will find it, because they both I mean, all the actors in this deserve credit, but particularly in this episode, those two shine with those two lines. Her delivery on I wasn't trying to be funny is like heartbreaking, if I'm honest with you. It's very well done. Okay, here we go. So let's just give some credit where credit's due. I don't get to do that very often. Johnny Young voicing Min, and Kez voiced by Minty Lewis. And I've already, he didn't get as much to do in this episode. Well, he did get a lot to do in this episode, but I think Ryan's best moment in this episode is actually an animation thing. Like, do I want to give I'll give the voice actor the shout out, but I will say his most emotional moment in this episode is very much sold by the facial expressions. We'll come to that in a second. Sakai Murashki? Oh, I'm gonna hate myself for getting that so badly. I'm sorry I butchered your name. You're a wonderful voice actor, and I'm very sorry. Maybe I'll take some time between this podcast and the next one to learn how to pronounce that correctly, and then say it in the next episode to give you the shout out you deserve. But yeah, no, in this episode, the Ryan moment that really got me was when he goes out on stage, and he's like, and here's Min, and Min doesn't come out, and there's just this hold on his face as it goes from a smile to just anguish. And honestly, I think this is interesting, because when I watched the first episode, I didn't really feel, because he's such a person who just like adapts, gathers himself, carries on, like he did just play the gig anyway last time. So I kind of underestimated how much Mingi bailing on that initial gig, the one from episode 1, hurt him, because he didn't show it in his face. He just, like I said, he just sort of gathered himself and got on with it, and that's very admirable quality in the character. But I think as a result, I kind of underestimated how much he was hurt by that. So seeing his face fall in this, man, that was that was upsetting. So yeah, every character got a moment to make me feel things this week, which in this particular episode. So this is pretty much, so far, this season's kind of masterpiece. It's a really great episode. Other little notes, obviously, we got to see the green room and a young version. We got to see young Mr. Green himself. What was it? Ben Green from the train car documentary. It was a green car, and it was one going through the green car, and he's like, and everything in here is green, and there's just this purple grape person. He's like, why are you here? He's like, I'm Ben Green. I'm Ben Green, the grape guy, or something like that. And here he is, Ben Green, the grape person. I like the idea that because he's young in this one, because he's got like a beard and an old man voice in the other one, but in this one he's like got he's got a baseball cap on. He looks like a child. I like the idea that it started as a green room, and they just kept putting more and more green stuff in there until it just became the green car. I wonder if that car is this car, but the party car got sort of discontinued, and it just became the green car. I do have a question, actually, though. Not a question, more of just a small observation, this is sort of the Dan's dumb nitpick corner that makes absolutely like bones. It makes no change to anything. It's just one of those things I noticed. The last episode was called the Astro Q car, and this one was called the Party car. Same car. They never moved from one car to another. So just not two cars, one car. But I wonder if ultimately this whole car just became the green car, and Mr. Ben Green, the great person, continued to live there and grow old. I did love that one of the Kez's friends was named Driveway, but he's actually one of the Hays from the Hey Ho Whoa car from the previous season. Just free and chilling as he goes through just checking out the party car. I like that we keep seeing little glimpses of denizens from other cars across other cars, and the more they do that, the more I'm just like, this is like way more mixed up than it felt in the first season when all the corgis seemed to be in Corginia and so on and so forth. And I quite like that. I like the more mixed up it gets. It's quite fun. So yeah, that mic makes a squeaky noise. This episode's fantastic. I think I almost should have waited till I was less excited to record this, because I feel like this has been like as rambly as these normally are. At least they're a certain amount of coherent, but I've been all over the place. Let me skim through my notes and just make sure there's nothing I missed, because I've not even really done it in order like I normally do. Like I said, all over the place. We've covered the train wide announcement. Covered that. I did say earlier, like, it's super funny, and I also really liked. I liked when Ryan very correctly pointed out to Min, like, the pressure is never more off than now. Like, this is a beehive guy that you're literally never going to see again. Like, this gig matters nothing. Like, we'll never see these people again. Word of this will never reach home. Like, this could be the worst gig we ever do. It's not going to matter. Like, you've never been in a less pressured situation. Like, this is the time to do it. And Kez just immediately, like, guys, the pressure is definitely on because it means more to her to have that. I did say that Ryan's face looks distraught, and I pointed that out, but I want to also add, actually, the way they animated Kez's face, both they've done a lot of really good work to make a Belle like that full of emotion. Really lovely how they've done that, particularly how content she looks at the end. It's super sweet. This episode, the music, absolutely fantastic. Also, the reference to YMO, Yellow Magic Orchestra, which I've looked up because of the reference in this, and they're a band from the 1979, whose name was kind of like, I guess, half a play on ELO, the Electric Light Orchestra guys, but also like kind of making fun of American expectations of Asian people, because it's the Yellow Magic Orchestra. Like, there's that old sort of stereotype of the mystic Asian sort of thing. So I thought that was really funny. What a clever name for that band to sort of throw that stereotype back in people's face with this, YMO band. And I did check out the entire album. I listened to it on my way to work today. It's really good. Behind the Mask is probably actually the best song on it. I know that one of the lines in this is that gets all the credit, but the whole album's great. That is true that the whole album is great, but man, Behind the Mask is the name of the album. Sorry, the song. What's the song? I'll bring it up. Oh no, yeah, Behind the Mask is the song. The album is called Solid State Survivor. It is well worth checking out. Like, it's really good. But if you don't want to you don't have the time to check out the whole album, go to YouTube and dig out Behind the Mask, or find it on Spotify. It's a really good song. It's really good. So I thought that was fun. It's not often I have enough time between watching one of these episodes and recording to do that kind of thing where I go, I should check out this thing they referenced in. But that was fun. I think that's everything. I think in my weird, excited thing, I've managed to ramble. I managed to be less organized with my thoughts and a bit all over the place, but I've managed to get them all out in 25 minutes instead of 30. But I don't think there's anything else that I want to cover. So no expectations now for where this goes. I desperately now. I mean, my investment in these two characters is such that I really desperately want to see them get to this gig and play it in New York. It's all I want. But you know, we will see. Again, with this episode, just 10 points for the intelligent room design, because you overcomplicate one of these cars and you don't have time to do all this great story work. Oh, I didn't mention the Chicken Joyce Judy shirt. It was weird because he pulls it out right up top and uses it like as a headband, and then like it was pretty obvious that's what it was, which is fine. Like I guess it didn't need to be a big secret, but like, you know, it's not for another like 8-9 minutes until he reveals that it's the shirt, and he always carries it with him. But yeah, I thought it was sweet that he had that shirt, and again, just them content in that bathroom playing that song at the end, really sweet. And the music in this as well, the music when they're playing in this, both the updated version of Dog in a Toque and then whatever the song they're playing at the end is, both really lovely. It just sets the tone beautifully. So yeah, I'm excited to see them maybe play more music together. I'm hoping to see this end with a gig, either on the train or let them get to New York and play whatever gig Ryan had set up. I think maybe there's a chance that maybe one of the reasons this series has kind of all the episodes have led into each other without implying loads of adventures in between is because Tulip was on this train for weeks/months. Maybe they're trying to imply that these guys have only been on the train for a couple of days so they can still make that gig. Maybe, because there's still 4 episodes left, so I don't know about that. But yeah, absolutely loving it. This episode really brought everything together for me. The comedy was still there, the simple sort of back to basics approach, the emotional stuff for these characters. I'm so invested. I desperately want their friendship to sort of function again. Seeing their number come down at the end made me happy too. Yeah, just on board in general, and we'll see where it goes. I said last time that I'd bring the name of the next episode up for me, and I didn't do that, but it's okay. So yeah, thanks very much guys for listening, and I'll see you next time when I sit down to discuss the Art Gallery car.